Hello and welcome to Inspiring into Action, a vlog and podcast that is here to influence, train, and encourage you to take action in your business. The stories that are shared on this vlog are to provoke you to take action today. Hello everyone on Inspiring into Action. This is Tara on the Toe Show. I'm glad that you guys can make it. Sorry we're a little bit late. We're having some technical difficulties. You know how that goes sometimes. But we're moms on a mission, and we're here to talk some homeschooling today. Normally on Inspiring into Action, we're totally talking about business and how to get your business started. But today is a twofold conversation. We're going to be talking about business, but also talking about homeschooling with Nicole Kennedy Green. How are you doing today, Nicole?
I'm good. Very busy these days, but doing well.
I'm sure your phone is ringing off the hook, and then all the things that we have to do as homeschoolers. So it is a busy time.
Yep. But it's a good time. So busy is good if you're doing what you love. So yeah.
That's correct. So we're going to give people a couple of minutes to check in. If you are on the live, let us know where you're checking in from. If you're in Maryland, just say Maryland. If you're in another state, definitely let us know where you are chiming in from. Later on in the interview, we're definitely going to have an opportunity for questions and answers. And a lot of things sometimes are similar in different states, and sometimes it's very different. So a lot of the questions that we're going to be answering are going to be primarily for Maryland, but homeschooling and maybe some of the material that Nicole is going to be sharing can be cross county, cross statewide. So we're going to share a lot of great nuggets here on the show today. So I hope you're excited, because we're excited too.
Very excited.
So Nicole, let's just go. We got like a couple people in already. So let's just go ahead and start. Nicole, could you tell us more about who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay. So again, my name is Nicole Kennedy Green, and I am a homeschool mom. And I have, because of how long I've been homeschooling and what we've been able to achieve, I have become a sought after homeschool mentor and coach and consultant. The business part of that is the coaching and consulting. I help other families get started on their journey, and I also help them make transitions from one area of the journey to the other. So if you're a new homeschooler, no matter where you're starting, at the beginning of your children's schooling, or if you're coming in somewhere in the middle, then I am the person to talk to for that, to get you started. Or if you are maybe you're already homeschooling and you're ready to move on to high school, or it's time to get your high schooler ready to go to college, those kinds of transitions I also help families with. We have been homeschooling for 15 years. I'm going into my 15th year. I have 3 children, 1 graduate who will be a sophomore in college this fall. I have a 16-year-old 11th grader, and I have a 14-year-old 9th grader, and my children have always been homeschooled. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of what I've been doing these days, this time when everybody's trying to make a decision, I'm helping people kind of figure out what their choices are and strategize what are the best options for their family for the coming school year. So whether they know already that they're going to become homeschoolers, whether they are trying to decide if distance learning, as it is being administered through their school, is the best option for them, or as I've been saying all day today and even yesterday, putting together that plan A, B, and C, because these are unprecedented times. And since we don't really know what's going on, we need to have more than one plan. So that's what I do for people who are reaching out to me for help these days.
I love that. Unprecedented time calls for unprecedented measures. I mean, you have to have the A, the B, and the C plan, because if you weren't homeschooling before this, you really weren't thinking about it. You were comfortable with where you were sending your child, whether it was to a public school or private school and you were good with that. But now, there's a lot of things that are uncertain. So a lot of people, like you said, are turning to people like you and asking questions about homeschooling. And I thought this would be the great forum to do that, and to also talk to you about some of the classes that you have going on this summer, and also your book, the Homeschooling One-on-One book. I remember when I met you, I was really reaching out to you in regards to high school, because I have an upcoming a high schooler now. He's a high schooler now, and I've never dealt with the situation. I've never had a high schooler before, and homeschooling and what that looks like. So that was my reasoning for reaching out to you, and the resources and the information I received from you was so beneficial that I was like, I have to have her on the show. I have to have her in front of everybody, because I don't know everything. My family, we just been homeschooling for 6 years, but it's actually 7 years now. And everything always seems like it's new every year. It's new every year. So tell us about the reason why you started to homeschool your children.
Okay, excellent question. So when we've lived in several places, and as you get to know me, you'll know I talk about 3 states that we homeschooled in. We've just moved in and out of. We left Maryland, moved to Illinois, came back to Maryland, back to Illinois, then to New Jersey. It's a long story. But when we lived in Illinois, we lived in a town that was being heavily impacted by the social changes or economic change that was happening in Chicago. So we lived 3 hours south of Chicago, but there were some serious economic changes going on, and the population was moving out of Chicago into different areas. And our town that we just happened to move to, where my husband was working at a small community hospital, our town was greatly impacted by that population change. As a result, those schools were going to be populated, and the state had not sent any extra money. That was my understanding from a neighbor who stopped me out walking my babies one day. She stopped me and said, hey, you have time, you have options, think about what else you want to do. And I taught public school, I went to public school, and so did my husband. So we just were in the same vein as most parents. Our kids were going to get to be kindergarten. We were going to go take them to school. We had not quite thought about it very much. Thankfully, at the time, my daughter was 4, and we had time to think about it, and that's when we began to think about it. We continued because we learned quickly that it was the best option for our family. And every year when they were younger, we would think about maybe by the time my daughter was 8 or 9, 3rd or 4th grade, we started talking about, do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to keep doing this? And every year we would pray about it. We would talk about it as a family, and nobody ever wanted to make change. And so we've been doing it. Now we're in it for the long haul because we only have 4 more years. I have 2 more kids. One of them is a junior and the other is a freshman, and we are done. I can see the light at the end of this tunnel. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. You can see the light. You need to I need to make you a t-shirt that says 4 more years.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of people choose to homeschool for a different reason. So that was really good. I mean, there's a problem in overcrowding schools and things like that. And so, you want your child to get the best education. I think one thing, though, that parents struggle with is that whether they feel qualified enough to do this. What do you say when parents ask you about feeling inadequate to teach their children at home?
I tell them, and this is very much a part of the very first part of my book, and we'll talk about the book in a second, but I tell them all the time that homeschooling is an extension of your family. It's an extension of parenting. And so, you are qualified because it's your kid. So obviously, there are some things that there's some research that needs to be done, and there are some, questions that need to be answered, and there are some things you have to find out and be able to access. But there's people like me here to help those who feel inadequate. You don't need a teacher license. You don't have to have a specific degree. In some states in the United States, you do need to have at least a high school diploma, but what makes you qualified to teach your children is that they are yours. So I'll give you an example, Tara, we talk a lot about in Maryland the notice of intent to homeschool, and I hammer home to folks all the time. We are notifying this to the county, to the state, that we intend to homeschool. It's not an application. It's not, we're not asking permission. We're not saying, hey, is it okay? Check me out and see if I can do it. No, I gave birth to these children. I feed them. I put shoes on that side 12 foot. I am the one I can tell the state that I'm homeschooling my children. So the short answer is, what makes you qualify? You are their parent. Whether you are the mom or the dad, you are their parent. And very few states in our country have laws that, stipulate other things. There's a lot of contingencies to that, but for the most part, they're not qualifications. You're qualified because they're your children. Okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And the good news is there is help and there is curriculum already written. There's things that you could just read. It's like baking a cake, a box cake. You look at the back of the box cake and you say, I need to add eggs, I need to add water, I need to add oil, mix this together and therefore I have a cake. We got a question in here. We're gonna ask questions in between. I know we'll do some at the end, but one person, Jessica Dana, thanks for joining us. She has a question about, what would you say to a parent who plans to work full-time and homeschool?
So I would say to you, Jessica, thank you so much for that question. It's an excellent question. I answer it probably 4 or 5 times a day. I would say to that parent, you need to put your plan in place. So, there are lots of different ways to approach that. How old are your children? What state do you live in? You're working full time. What does your village look like? What resources do you have? And so what I would say is, where there's a will, there's a way. Generally, by the time we finish strategizing, we figure it out. These days, with everyone having to figure out how to do distance schooling, probably even if it's just a few days a week. So, some school districts are going in for a couple of days a week. Some school districts are staying out completely virtually. That is a strategy situation that I'm finding myself in every day. And I would tell you, Dana, Jessica, that the ideal thing to do is work hard on figuring out your strategy, building your scaffold to support your family needs as early as possible. So it's just now July 16th. School doesn't start into August, early September in most places. You have time to figure that out, and you could rally, people around you who will be able to support you. Let me say this. I learned a long time ago in my life, and it is absolutely true in homeschooling. If you have the situation, if there's a peculiarity you think in your family, I have to work full time, I have these kids, or my husband and I work opposite shifts, or I live in a town where there's no family, you're not the only one. You're never the only one. Somebody else is looking for the same kind of support as you, and usually what it takes for you both to be supported is to support each other. Okay, so if you would like to, and I'm sure Tara will tell you this later, but if you would like to kind of strategize that with me, there's all kinds of ways to reach me. Most of them I have several different avenues on Facebook and then my website. We can talk it out and I can try to help you strategize that. It is definitely doable. Lots of families who are full-time working parents, sometimes one single parent, full-time working, sometimes 2 parents. Lots of them are able to homeschool their children. Okay?
Yeah. And even single parents too, because I've seen some single parents maneuver that. It's just all about really planning, like you said, and coordinating. I mean, even if you are a 2-parent family, and we, like my husband and I, we're self-employed, we have to have a schedule. We have to have a plan. There's some times where we have to have our designated work times that we work with the kids, and there's sometimes that we are just working on with homeschooling. So Maunda, hey Maunda, thanks for joining us. She says time management and support system are key, and that is definitely the truth.
And the truth of the matter is, and also Jessica, this goes to your question. I think what's very important, and this is probably something we need to talk about at the onset, that homeschooling requires a paradigm shift. If you work full time and your kids need to be educated, and in your mind you're thinking about 8 to 4 at a desk with a teacher standing in front, you can't do that. But that's not even what homeschooling looks like. So you have to have a paradigm shift. Homeschooling can happen anytime, at any place in your house, under any circumstances, because homeschooling is what parents make it. We are in charge, right? So because if you have to work full time and your kids don't get to do school until later in the evening because they're hanging out with grandma during the day, or they do school on Saturday and Sunday, or you all do school from 6 to 2, whatever it is, where homeschooling is an extension of your family. And so however your family dynamic rolls, your homeschool should roll right into that. And there are lots of ways, once we change our paradigm, right, we can see how to fit it in. And your child will not be any better or less off, depending on how you set your schedule. There's not, nothing is better or worse. What's better or worse is what works for you. Okay. So we have to just figure out how it works for you.
Yeah, that is good. You definitely have to figure out what works for you and have a schedule. Like I know Maoda, and she works specifically with parents on time management and time skill support. So it's like, and that's something that we all need. So it's definitely something that you definitely have to plan out. You definitely have to figure out what works for your schedule. And it's important to have key people in your life, whether it is, having Nicole consult you and working with you and helping your family to strategize and formulate these, maybe even help you to think outside the box to see who's your village. There may be your neighbor might be deciding to homeschool too, and that might be your village. Yes, there is maybe some social distancing, but as long as if you know where your neighbor is, I don't want to encourage anybody or discourage anybody from it, but that's your plan. You make it your plan. I'm not saying what you should or should not do, but you make it your plan. So another question we have is from Tiffany Jameson. She asked, there wasn't a question. Oh, I'm sorry. There was a question before that. Yes. She said, can you combine certain subjects for kindergarten and a second grader? Like, so if you have, and this is good for you, this is definitely a question you can answer because, you have different children in different age groups. How did you work that out?
Absolutely. So I will tell you at the beginning when we first started. So my daughter is 3 years older than her next sibling, and when we first started, it was all about her. She was fortunate to be the first, to do everything, if you want to call that fortunate, because then there's the guinea pig situation. But that happens with parenting anyway, right? And so, but when my second child was born and he became school age, I realized that 3 years was a gap, and there were some things we could combine and some things we can't. So in my house, I had kindergarten. She's 3 years older, so I was like at the kindergarten, third grade stage. And obviously they can't do language arts together. Obviously they can't do math together starting out. Now, I will tell you, though, this is one caveat to that, and I'm going to go back to my original thought, but this is one caveat to that. I have a 16-year-old and 14-year-old who for a long time were doing the same thing in certain subjects, because this younger one, first of all, is bright and precocious, but also sitting around the circle, he learned everything they were learning. Sitting at the table with us, he read early, he talked early, he did math early, he knows things that are being taught in high school history. Even when he was in 7th and 8th grade, he sat with us, he learned with us. And so some subjects will combine by accident, okay? But the ones that are most easily combined with the space you're talking about, Nisha, and by the way, thanks for joining us. I appreciate the fact that you found me here. One of the things that the two subjects that combine the best are science and history, or science and social studies. At that age, you're teaching social studies. Kids are learning about maps. They're learning about themselves. They're learning about community helpers and where they are in their town. Second and kindergarten are definitely a grades that can be combined for those things. And then what you want to do is you will separate them for their learning, for reading, and you'll separate them for math, okay? Just those two subjects. But if anything else, you can combine them for art, you can combine them for music, you can combine them for PE, everything else can combine. English and math are generally the things that stand out. And they don't have to take long. Kindergarten and second grade, girl, you can do both of them, English and math, language arts and math, in about an hour and 20 minutes, and put those books away and get out some read alouds, turn on some videos, and that's school, okay? So no sweat. Remember, it's no sweat. You can do this, okay?
Yep. You can do this. You definitely can. The next question is from Tiffany Jameson. She says, how does kindergarten look like for homeschooling? And then she says she also worries about lack of peer interaction. So how would homeschooling look? Go ahead.
Well, kindergarten looks like preschool. I mean, when it comes, let me qualify that. So at kindergarten, kids are still learning very much through play. They're learning with hands-on things. They're learning very much how to discover themselves with relation to the world. They still need lots of outdoor time. They need lots of and I taught kindergarten in public school too. So I will tell you that it's not. It doesn't have to be different at home. They need lots of dress up time and time with mom and sitting in your nap time, and that's what kindergartners need socially and emotionally. Period. What kindergarten looks like in homeschooling is usually most children are getting ready to read if they're not already reading. Most children are identifying numbers and being able to do what they call one-to-one correspondence with like numbers and counting. Most children are beginning to really understand the world around them. Kindergarten is in school. The interaction, the social and emotional growth happens with interaction, but a common misconception is that homeschoolers don't interact. Now, these are unprecedented times, and so we're doing a lot of distancing, but there are online programs and stuff that have kindergarten classes as well. I will tell you, and Tara, you may not know this is hot off the presses. I might get in trouble for announcing it because we haven't made it, we haven't announced it yet, but Bridge Elementary, which I am one of the directors of, has just decided in response to families who asked us about kindergarten to start a kindergarten program. So the kids will meet online with a teacher. They will be in a class. They will do lots of singing and dancing and having the social time that they would have if they were in class. You build your village, Tiffany, and then your kindergartner will get the peer interaction. Okay, so and it won't look the same as it would if they were in class. Absolutely not. Nothing is going to look the same. Nothing is going to look the same, but I promise you that your kindergartner not being in a kindergarten classroom with Miss Frizzo and having, circle time is not going to set your children any far back. It's not going to set them back. They will be okay because children are resilient and they move on. And at kindergarten, they just move on. They will, trust me when I tell you out of my experience, they will move on, okay? If your kindergartner is the only child you have, then you want to talk about strategies for social interaction. But what Tara was alluding to earlier was finding what people are calling, Tara, a small pod of others to interact with. Put your mask on, go to a park day, and and let them play. They don't have to be all over each other. We're not exchanging popsicles and drinking out each other's juice boxes. We're not doing that, but they'll learn and then they'll still get the peer interaction. Okay, so that's another thing. I'll help you. I don't know where you're watching from, but I can try to help you hone in on some interaction for kindergartners. Okay.
Yeah, Tiffany is in Maryland. I know who she is. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a good segue to talk about your book, Homeschool 101, and how that came about. I'm going to show it in stream and also in, let me show it.
And I have one in my hand.
Oh, okay, awesome. Just show it in your hand.
Okay, so this is proof. Like, this is literally hot off the presses. This is a proof of the, you publish and you get a proof so you can make sure everything is in the place you want it to be. But this is what it looks like, and it's called Homeschool 101, Chart the Course, Enjoy the Journey. Because again, like I said, my goal with homeschool families, especially with new homeschoolers, my expertise, okay, I am a subject matter expert in starting people off homeschooling, getting you off to a good start, helping you make transitions. And I want you to, the book takes you through several different avenues or things that you need to think about as you're getting started. So I'll look at the table of contents and just kind of run you guys through them a little bit. First, we have part one, which is the chart the course part. We have the chapter one is why, W-H-Y. And of course, you're talking about why am I doing this and what is this going to look like for us? Chapter two, let's make it official. Okay. And that's when we talk a lot about the laws and the legal implications. Chapter three, what kind of homeschooler are you? And that talks a lot about different styles of homeschooling, methods of homeschooling. You'll get to power down. You probably have heard words like eclectic and classical classical and traditional. So we work through that. And then chapter 4, different strokes for different folks, is all about learning styles. So how do your children best learn, and how do you as a parent best teach? And after that, we move to part 2, which is more anecdotal. It's called Enjoy the Journey. And it talks, I share a lot from our journey up to this point about homeschooling using the acronym HOMESCHOOL. And I think actually that's an acrostic when you have a word and then there's a letter from each word. And I use those letters to talk about home, others, money, education, socialization, character building, here, there, and everywhere, opportunity, overwhelming, and labor of love. And so that's what the book is all about. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know, like we don't have time for 200 pages right now to be sitting down trying to read through. This is the time to hit it and quit it. It's the time to get the video to live streams like this. You want to watch some videos. You want to be able to listen to a podcast while you're washing dishes. I get it. I knew that a smaller book would be more palatable or easier, more manageable. In my head, it was much bigger. I'm so glad that it turned out to be a lot smaller. It's a quick read. If you just read straight through it, my beta testers, it was a quick read for them, but there's workbook pages. There's thoughtful exercises. What is it that we have to figure out? I don't know if you can see the lines. How do we figure this out? Lots of things to consider. I give you considerations, exercises to work through, time to sit down with your family and figure out your mission and vision statement. It is packed full of information. And if you are just getting started, you need this book. Not because I wrote it because you need it. And that's why you need to buy it, okay?
Yeah. I
answered your question.
wish I would have had a book like that. I wish I would have had a book like that when I first started. But even if you haven't just started, but I'm sure it's probably good even if you just haven't started, because even if you have an older child, you're still going to need to know the keys that she's talking about in her book. And guess what? She's not giving it away, but she is putting on sale specially just for this podcast, just for this time, to make it available to you guys. I think the link is in the bio, in the notes. So when you go to that, you can purchase the book today from her. And so Nicole, also tell us about. Go ahead. What are you about to say?
No, I was just gonna say that I do have it listed on the website for an event price, which is just the price for today. So if you want it for today during this event, or maybe even after we sign off, it'll be till this evening until we change the price back. But it is in the notes right here where you all are writing in the chat, NicoleKennedyGreen.com/special. That's where you'll get the special price. After today, it goes back. The event price is only for events. So if we were able to be live, we would be live somewhere. Y'all would all be in the audience and you'd be paying that price. But if you just buy it from Amazon or from our website later, you'll pay a different price for it. So go ahead and take advantage of that special and get it.
I know. Take advantage of this special. Also on that page, Nicole, you have a class that you are teaching for 8th graders and high schoolers about writing. Could you tell the listeners more about that class and how that is, what's going on with that?
Sure, absolutely. So this, another thing that I do in the homeschool community is I teach high school English language arts and high school English and high school literature, both of which are eligible for high school English credit. Okay, so this year, this summer, and this is actually backed by popular demand. I did it for middle schoolers a few years ago when my kids were in middle school. This year, I'm doing it for high school. This summer, in 2 more weeks, I think it's the last week of August. Last week of July. So that is, those dates are not going to come to my head easily right now because we're doing this. The week of July 27th through the 30th, 4 days, 2 hours each day of English, grammar, and composition. It's a boot camp. And so what I'm doing, and I've heard from moms say, the end of this is for homeschoolers and for kids who go to school, right? The end of this fourth quarter of 2020 was treacherous. They didn't write enough. He lost his grammar skills. All of that summer slide was compounded by not being able to be in class from March, April, and May and the early part of June. And so this boot camp is 4 days, 2 hours a day. The price is $125 per student. And we're going to spend time going through MLA and combining resources for a research paper. We're going to talk about the different components of different kinds of essays. We're going to hammer some grammar home. We're going to play grammar games online. The workshop will be hosted by myself on Zoom, so we'll be live and interactive. And again, like I said, it's by popular demand. I didn't do it last year, and people were saying to me, "Where is your boot camp this year?" And so it's something that I'm excited to offer. I edit in my sleep. It's just something that I do, and English grammar is my niche, and that's what we're doing this summer. And then later in August, once those classes are over, then I am also going to be offering some classes in the fall for high schoolers who are homeschooled, or for families who are supplementing whatever their district is doing for high schoolers in English and literature.
Yeah, so because that is an option. Yeah, that's a good option. You said supplementing, because even if your district is going to be, your child is going to be at home, distant learning with public school, you're still going to need some assistance. I mean, you're still going to need some help. You want them to continue to learn more and more. So it's something definitely that you can still, utilize for class. And also, I mean, I've seen you in action. You're a great teacher. You're a great history teacher. And so I just can't wait to sign my son up for that. And because this is the time. I mean, you need to learn. Kids need to learn how to write, not only for the school year, but also to write some of these essays for scholarships to get into college.
Absolutely. And listen, my goal is to make effective communicators. Okay. So if let's say, for example, and social media has done this to all of us. If you are a business person, Tara, and so we're talking to business people, right? That's what your page is about. If you are a business person and you put out a public service announcement, or you have some fantastic message and your grammar is bad and your spelling is off, people can't even get what you're trying to say. You're not an effective communicator. Even if your message is fantastic, if you're not an effective communicator, I can't read that. We don't know what you're trying to say. And so somewhere, people were complaining about how schools drop cursive. Cursive is the least of our worries in this time of typing. Yes, they should be able to write cursive. They should be able to read cursive, because they don't want to ever not be able to read something that's written. But if they can't use this language, if they can't use this native language, and even if it's not your native language, if this is where you live, you need to have command of this language. People who don't live in the United States speak English better, write English better than some children who've gone through our schools. You need to have command. And I tell my students all the time, you may have just started writing, even reading and writing at 5, 6, 7, but you've been speaking the language all your life. So you should be able to be an effective communicator. That's one of my heartbeats, and it's something I am very, very adamant about and very excited to do. And the word I'm looking for is passionate. I'm passionate about it. And so I try to help create effective communicators through my English classes.
Yes, you do. So congrats, T. Sawyers. She just ordered a book. She said, this is great. So I'm glad that you are enjoying the information, and I know that you will definitely enjoy the book. Let's go on to another question in regards to what are some things, and we've all learned, when you're living, you're going to learn. And so what are some things that you have learned in your homeschool journey that you can help someone avoid, like some stumbling blocks? What are some things that you can share that you would not do again, and you would shout it from the rooftops, don't do this, to help other parents to avoid those mistakes?
Okay, so I have a top 3 that come immediately to mind. The first one is, remember, keep this in your mind. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's not an original quote of mine. I don't know who said it first, but comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare yourself to other people, you lose all joy for who you are and what you are doing. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, usually when we're comparing ourselves to others, especially in the homeschool community, you are comparing your behind the scenes to somebody else's out front, right? So they post this beautiful, well put together house, house and all of their menu plans, and the kid that's sitting at the table doing math without crying, and behind your house is a hot mess, and your baby is at your feet dragging around, don't want to do math, and you don't know what's for dinner, maybe cereal again tonight. And you're comparing it, it makes you sad. It makes us upset. It takes away the joy. Remember that comparison is a thief of joy. You homeschool your family with your children under your circumstances, and you do your best because it's in your heart to do. Okay, so that's number one. Don't compare yourself or your homeschool or your children to anyone else. Okay.
Yes.
Number two, the second thing is you are in control of this. So if it's not working, change it. You have every right to change it. If, just because you bought it doesn't mean you have to use it. I know that's something we don't say to husbands around husbands, because they're like, no, you bought that, you use that. But some things are trial and error, right? If it doesn't work, you need to fix it. You know the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when it is broke, do fix it. Change it. Buy something else, use something else, get in the face of another homeschooler and say, this is not working for us. What works for you? You are in control. You can make the changes you need to make. Okay? And the third thing, so I said I had three. So comparison is a thief of joy. You are in control, so you can make changes. And the third thing that I would tell you is that the days are long, but the years are short. The days are long, but the years are short. What do I mean by that? I mean that some days you will wake up longing for bedtime. Okay. Remember, I said that homeschooling is an extension of your parenting. So remember those hard days when you had been up with a baby all night, and then it's time to get up and engage the world, and all you want to do is get back in your bed. Some days homeschooling is like that, even with teenagers. Some days homeschooling is like that too, but I will tell you, you're going to look up one day and that child that was really hard to teach to read will be dressed to the nines, face beat to the gods, and on her way to the prom. And all you'll think is, Lord, when did I miss? Where has the time gone? The days are long. You will be longing for bedtime some days, but you will look up and it will all be over. And we alluded to this a few minutes ago. I can now see the light at the end of this tunnel. But when my daughter was 4 and I was trying to figure it out, when she was 5 and we were struggling trying to figure out what curriculum was best to teach her to, and my middle child is a completely different personality than me, and I couldn't figure out how to reach him. When we were struggling, I thought this was going to be forever. And now I'm looking up and he's 6 feet tall and I'm literally looking up his nose. Okay, that you look up and it's gone. Life is a vapor. So remember, the days are long, but the years are short. Don't get bogged down in the hard days. And one of the last things I say in the book is that I hope you all will get to the end of your journey, wherever it ends. If it ends, post-COVID, if a vaccine ends your journey, then, praise the Lord, you got through this, right? Wherever your journey ends, if it ends at graduation, if it ends at high school, if it ends at, when COVID blows away, whatever happens, whatever ends your journey, what I'm hoping it will happen is people will look back at the end and say, that was worth our time. That was worth the effort. Our family is better off because we tried that. Now, your family may be better off because you tried it and you stopped it, right? But whatever it is, whatever is unique to your family, remember, it does not last always. The days are long, but the years are short. Okay? So those are my top 3, Tara.
Yes. That's awesome. I'm about to die in here. I need to shoot you an offering for that one, because you're right. I mean, I look up and I remember my son was like this, and now he's my height. And I'm like, where did the time go? I wish I had gained more hugs than hollering. I wish I had, some of those things are just mom things or whatever. But but it happens in homeschool. I mean, you get stressed out because you want the best for your kids. And with everything, not just homeschooling, but mom, you want the best for your kids. And sometimes things aren't working out in the way that you want it to. But I've just learned not to give up and to continue on and to remember why I even started this. This homeschooling right here is a journey for us. And it was something that we wanted to do. But this might not be what you want to do. And you're just, doing it for the short period. But, I'm glad that you guys were able to come on. We had a couple people or said they order books. Tashma says she ordered a book. Stephanie says she ordered a book. So thank you guys for ordering a book. I'm sure it's going to be a blessing for you just to read all the nuggets. I mean, Nicole, I mean, you guys are just meeting, some of you guys are just meeting her, but I've known her. She's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, she's a homeschool. She speaks at conferences and she teaches classes, homeschool one-on-one all the time, helping parents, moms and dads working and solely homeschooling parents, helping them to navigate through this environment of homeschooling because you do need help in this. You really do. And it's good to know that she has a child that she referenced earlier that has already finished her freshman year in college and is doing well. And you can do this. A lot of people think they need to put their children in public school once they get to high school, but she's showing you that you could do it and you could do it well. And there's other homeschool parents out there that are doing it well as well. So
Absolutely.
it's awesome.
If I could just interject this, I'll say this about my daughter. People often ask me, or they ask, where do you get the? I'm scared to do high school, or where do you get the confidence to do high school? And I'm the first to tell you, I got the confidence from watching other people do it. I am an extreme extrovert. I need to be around folks. I find people who can help me do what I need to do. The dedication in my book is for to a couple different people, but one of them is a lady who came alongside me when her children she was still homeschooling her children. She had a couple of children that were adults. She came alongside of me and said, "Listen, honey, this is how you do it, and don't worry about it. This is what you need to do, and don't worry about that. Do it like this." And she came alongside me and mentored me, and it feels like I had her for a whole lot longer than I did, but we moved away shortly after we were there maybe 3 years when we really got started, but she really did help me. And one of the things I thought about when I was contemplating this book was the looking back of it all. We have to help other people. So what gave me the confidence to do high school, other people who've done high school, was once I saw homeschoolers go to college, I said, man, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
If their kid go to college, I can go to college. My kid can go to college. And you know what else I did? I gained all of this this extreme confidence of, and we're not jumping through any extra hoops. So some colleges have different expectations of homeschoolers than others. And my daughter and I decided early on, we're not jumping through any extra hoops because I have seen how homeschoolers go to college without all of that extra. And so we decided that if that's what you need for us, because we homeschool, then you're not worth my kid. And so we looked to other places. I learned all that watching other people do it. And, so you get a hold of somebody and you watch them do it. And I'm just going to be here at least 4 more years until mine graduates. I did say, though, that when this one's done, I am out. But I don't know. I might hang around a little bit longer.
We will find you. We will find you. We will hunt you down and find you. But could you also tell the audience, like in normal situations, if we weren't having this pandemic, there are a lot of options for homeschooling. It doesn't mean that you have your desk in front of your kids and you guys are doing all this stuff. Homeschool looks different for so many different families. Could you just tell the listeners about a couple of ways maybe that you have tried, and if you haven't tried these, and I'll chime in, some ways that we have homeschooled our kids in the past or are contemplating doing in the future?
Absolutely. So another one of those best phrases I use all the time is that there are as many ways to homeschool as there are families doing it. Remember, keep this in your mind. Never lose this. You know how they say in church, if you don't remember anything else I said today, right? Remember this, that homeschooling is an extension of your family. So with that said, if you all are high-tech screen people and you just, everybody learns better visually and visually and from an auditory way, and you learn better that way, you can do your whole curriculum, from a video. I mean, everything from Khan Academy for math to leapfrog videos for English, there's everything. If you are all screen all the time, then tech, do your thing, okay? If you have kids who are booky and bookish and they like to read textbooks or whatever way, if they're visual learners, you will find that they probably prefer to read things and they like to be able to have it written down for them and they want to be able to see it, then there are textbook ways to homeschool. And then, you know, people are auditory. We listen to things, we have videos, we have audio tapes, that kind of stuff. There are classes. You don't have to teach everything. Tara, let me tell you something that freed my whole life. When I learned that most homeschool curriculum is scripted for the parent, or even some of it is written to the student, I said, man, we can do this. And I don't have to learn
I know.
I don't have to know it, because Mr. Demi on that video can teach it for me. We put the video in, the boys sit in front of the video, and sometimes I have to sit there and learn this. I can answer questions later. There are tons of things, different ways to do it. The key for that is learning your child. If you get to know your child's learning style, and this is something that, you know, you can Google this. I did not come up with these. You can Google learning style assessments. I did say I was going to post a link to a couple in one of my Facebook groups, but if you find a learning style assessment and let your children take learning style assessments, it'll tell you what their learning style is and how to best teach that child. Those are things that are important to know, because then you can set it up the way you want to do it. So now we talked about in the house, right? Do you have to set up a classroom? I tried that, and they were all over the house anyway. Do you need to set up a classroom? Not necessarily. If you are the type of person who needs to contain everything, then you can do that. But my kids are all over the place, and they have been all their lives, all over the floor, all over the house. Very few days do you see anybody at the kitchen table, or all of those you know, those stereotypical things that homeschoolers look like when you see movies or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so no, we don't do that. But then the other thing is there's a ton of opportunity. Technology allows us the opportunity to outsource so much. I have one rule, Tara. I am not going to teach high school science. We're not blowing up stuff in my house. We're not dissecting stuff in my house. We're not lighting things on fire. We're not putting it in the microwave and see what happens to it. We're not doing any of that in my house. We don't do that. I don't do yuck. We don't do it. I have always committed. And I told my husband, I don't care what I have to do for income. Somebody else is going to do science in this house. Do my kids enjoy science? Yes. They enjoy science with a fantastic tutor who teaches science. And I told her, as long as she's teaching it and my kids are still in school, I will be paying her. Okay? That's not my thing. Once we stop blowing bubbles and watching the sun, you know, doing moon phases with Oreos, I stopped doing science. Okay? So you find some outsourcing. The more technology there is, the more access you have. So, you know, also gone are the days when we cry about what's not in my community. It doesn't matter what's in your community. Your community is on this screen. You can find everything you need. The internet has made the world and the uttermost parts of the earth accessible to everybody. That's another thing I help families do, is find what they need, okay? So you do not need to have a class right there in front of you. Do your kids need social interaction? Yes. Then what you do is you find a live class versus, you know, a recorded class. Does your kid not need a social interaction? Fine. And you do it at your own pace, something that doesn't have a live teacher. Sometimes it'll be determined by your budget, okay? So whatever you need to do. There are tutorials, which is basically a Maryland thing, but then there are co-ops, and there are, you know, weekend intensives away and all kinds of stuff. There are all kinds of ways to homeschool. As many families as are doing it, there are ways to do it, okay? Every family figures out their way. And in the book, I do talk about homeschool methods. We talk about the Charlotte Mason method, the classical method, eclectic. We talk about unschooling. We talk about a couple, you know, different ways that people approach homeschooling. I don't hammer, you know, drill down into very specifics, but I'm good for that in consulting, so we can figure out what's best for your family. But there are too many ways to do it to just sit on your I don't know how. That's not an excuse anymore. You can figure it out. You're right about that. I was going to say this. When I teach this Homeschool 101 workshop that this book is born from, I start by telling parents, my goal is to be a quality assurance director. My dad worked in quality assurance, and he explained to me that the quality assurance person's job is to break it before it hits the market, right? I try to tell you as much of the nitty gritty and the truth about homeschooling as I possibly can, so that you can, when you get to the end of this book, you'll be like, I don't know if I can do that. Or you'll be like, yay, we can do this. And you may hover somewhere in between and be like, I can do it if somebody helps me. Wherever you get the the truthful assessment of your family and what your family can do is the goal. And as long as you are telling the truth about yourself and you even just decide to give it a try for a year, I don't think you'll be disappointed. There are lots of ways to do it.
And you no, that is no, it's awesome. It's awesome information. And you'll learn as a parent, you'll grow and you'll learn as a parent through that first year of homeschooling. And then I take it year by year. I mean, there's many times where I think of maybe my kids might be better off at school, but then I get those days where it's like, I'm glad they're at home because I was able to address that issue, to address that problem, or tell them our perspective of what we think about the situation that happened. So I think that, it is, you're right. There's as many people as their families there's different ways to homeschool, and it may not look the same way every year, and that's okay. And that's okay.
You have to consider your children like bullet points, right? So if you guys can think about what bullet points are. So in third grade, this is what we did. And then, well, this is what I did for Joel. And then this next bullet point is how we approach third grade for Tim. And then here comes Noah doing third grade different, right? You look at your kids as bullet points because they're different people and they have different personalities and different needs and different proclivities. And you know what I'm learning, Tara, if I can just say this, because I'm just a transparent, open book, as my life moves into menopause, I have my own points. There are some days when energy is not there, and there are other days when I'm kind of manic, and there are days when, they don't want to be bothered with me because I'm somebody else today. Homeschooling, like you said, it's different year to year, and some years it's different child to child, and it is what it is, but it's an extension of your family, and your family not any different than that. It looks like your family. It looks just like your family. So, just embrace that. Love it. It is what it is, and it's okay. Whatever it is for your house is okay. As long as you're doing something, whatever it is, okay. Yep.
Exactly. Are there any other questions in the chat? I want to make sure that I get your questions answered. This is the time she's on here live. I mean, yes, this will be up as replay and you'll be able to hear it afterwards. But I want to make sure that those that are on here live get your questions answered. I had a lot of questions when I first started homeschooling. And like I said earlier, I wish I would have I had a lot of advice, but no one really did take me by the hand to say, hey, this is, the answer of someone I could call directly and ask them. Usually you would get some advice here or there and not know what to do with it. So I made a lot of mistakes in my homeschool and still do, but it's my mistakes. And, one thing I will say is that it's helpful if you are married that you and your husband agree about this homeschooling issue. I mean, right now it's kind of hard to disagree about it, but what would you say to married people on here? And then we'll talk about some other things that you need to help have your village included in there. But how important is agreement in regards to homeschooling your kids as a married couple?
I do not recommend homeschooling if one spouse is against it. And the reason I say that is because you need buy-in from the whole family. Okay. And I was talking to a mom recently who told me that her husband is not for it, and she finds herself constantly having to explain to him how it works if you just let me work it. And, then homeschooling costs money. And if the other spouse is not interested in that budget category, it's hard. It's hard to do things when you're not in agreement. Now, are there times when you say to your spouse, let's give it a year and let's see if this will work? Yes, you find compromise, you see if there's common ground. Generally, the other spouse comes around, but if you are dead set against each other, homeschool, like anything else, is something that you don't want to venture into. If your spouse tells you don't buy a new car, I don't think we need to spend that money right now, and you go buy a new car, that's going to be catastrophe somehow, right? It'll be dissension in home, it's discord. Then look at homeschool in the same way. If the other spouse, whether it's the husband or the wife, is not for it, then you need to put it off until you all can find common ground. And I will tell you that I talk to a lot of moms. See, sometimes moms, we think that moms are all for it. It's something mom wants to do, and dad is just like, whatever, girl. Or or he goes in and gives you the okay and is just kind of sits on the sideline. But I know lots of people for whom homeschooling was dad's idea, and it's so funny because they have these wonderful ideas, right? But they're not doing the work. Sometimes they're not the one that's doing it, but they want it done. To me, it's like bring home some fish and saying, let's cook this. I don't know how to scale fish and cut off heads, and I don't know what to do with all this. I'd rather, so, you have to agree. Everybody has to agree. And even if you're not 100% on board, some level of agreement is imperative. Don't let homeschooling be the thing, right? That thing that becomes a deal breaker, the mountain that your family dies on. Don't let homeschooling become that. It's important on a lot of levels to do this, but it's most important to do it with buy-in from everybody. And the children are minor stakeholders, but the spouses, they are the ones. And if you're divorced or separated or otherwise co-parenting, and you are the what's the word, custodial parent, you are the custodial parent, that's a little different for you, because then you have the I guess the authority in that sense. But you don't want to be homeschooling 3 days out the week and then your kid goes to live with dad and dad doesn't want to do homeschooling, or your child is at home with mom and her new husband, and the new husband homeschooling is stupid, and then he goes to live. That's a thing, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that is also an extension of your family, because truly it probably was already uncomfortable, right? So then you need a strategist, and then you need some prayer support, and then you need somebody to talk to you who's been there and done that. Or in my case, I haven't been there and done that, but I've counseled several families of how to handle that, the legalities of it, the dynamics. If you have a child who leaves your house on Wednesday and goes to the other parent for Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and then they come home on Saturday, then that means you're looking at a 3-day-a-week school week. You're looking at a 3-day school week, because you can't expect that to happen in the other house. They're not going to do it the same way you do it, but there are ways around it. Remember, because it's an extension of your family. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, this is awesome. I think a lot of the takeaways that I have received from this is that homeschooling is an extension of your family. And another thing that you mentioned earlier was definitely not to compare, because you often get into that either comparing yourself or comparing your children, or just things that you want your children to do. Your children may not want to learn like that. Like, I wish my sons were readers. I wish they would just open up a book and just read, but that's not them. Even though I say, like, let's at least do an hour a day, that is just the extent of it, and that's just who they are as people. So it's really getting to know your children. I'm sure a lot of people have really gotten to know their children during this whole pandemic, and have a conversation with your children. Ask them what they think about this, and like you said, put it in and say, maybe it's the year that we try this, and make sure you get Nicole's book. Nicole, where can everyone reach you on social media, everywhere? Where can they reach you after this interview is over?
Okay, so I have all the socials, but I don't spend a lot of time on them. I'm going to be honest with you. Facebook is my preference, and I have several places you can find me on Facebook. So I started a mentoring group called Chart the Course, Homeschool Mentoring with Nicole Kennedy Green, so you can find me there. That is where I spend at least an hour a week doing one-on-one. We have a live every week, and I'm answering questions, and I'm posting a lot of my resources there. So that one is called Chart the Course. Homeschool or Chart the Course Mentoring, Homeschool Mentoring with Nicole Kennedy Green, I think is what it's called. And then I just have a consulting page called Nicole Kennedy Green. I also share lots of resources from there. Somebody told me today that I need to change that name just a little bit so nobody duplicates that, because the name Nicole Green is very common. So that's why I use my Kennedy so prevalently. But Nicole Kennedy Green on Facebook is another place you can find me. And then I am in lots of Facebook groups. So if you are local, you can find me in Maryland Homeschoolers. You can find me in DMV Black Homeschoolers. You can find me in PG County Homeschoolers. You can find me at DMV Friends. I'm probably in 5 or 6 homeschool groups. I am in Surviving Homeschool, which is nationwide and consists of lots of different homeschool. I didn't start that one, but I'm an active part of it, because it brings together public and private educators, parents who are not or just trying to figure it out. And then also homeschoolers brings us together to help each other survive this moment that we're in right now. And then one of the places that's most near and dear to my heart is African American homeschool moms. I am an early, like one of the first members of that group. I did life with the founder of that group, and the admin is a good friend of mine, and you'll find me there often too. So I'm all over Facebook. And then I have a website, NicoleKennedyGreen.com. The book is launching not next week, Thursday. I want to say it's the 30th. I'm still working on the details of that, but I'm looking at Thursday the 30th. Any of my socials will have the information for that. Tara will have the information for that, so you all will know where we are for the launch on Thursday. And if you want me, you find me on Facebook. That's where I am.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, Nicole, like I said, thank you again for, taking the time out to do this interview. If you guys have any more questions, I'll talk to you about how long we'll have the link up for, because I mean, this will probably be replayed. I know that there was a lot of people on social media buzzing that they needed to be on this, and some of them I see on here and some of them I don't. So I want to make sure that they are able to see the interview. You'll be able to catch it on Inspire to Action, the Facebook page. Also, inspiretoaction.com will have the interview up there as well. Make sure you go visit Nicole's page, buy her book while it's on special. If you missed the special, still buy the book. It's still well worth it. It's not like it's it's $50 after this. So I just want to make sure it's definitely affordable. It's definitely affordable. And it is, like she said, it's a quick read so that you can get the information that you need. Also, I just wanted to show you guys this. I made this shirt. And so, Nicole, I'm going to make sure you get one. And so since it says, as for me and my house, we'll be at the crib home pre-COVID-19. For those who decide to homeschool this year, it says homeschool 2020. I saw that on social media, not this actually, but I saw someone say, as for me and my house, we'll be at the crib. And I was like, oh, that's a t-shirt. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do that because I mean, yeah, hey, I was like, we're going to be at the crib, and it makes a nice little keepsake. So that's available at impactfulgear.com if anyone wants to purchase that shirt. But Nicole, I'll make sure that you get one because I know that you want. It's going to be available in black, but right now it's in white. So it is what it is.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add one more thing, Tara. I am building content into my YouTube channel also. And it's also Nicole Kennedy Green on YouTube. I am building content. So, I originally, and Tara will tell y'all, she would always say, you need to make a video. And I'm saying, I don't need to be on camera. And here I am on camera 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Live. Right, live now. And live in your group. I see you. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm doing lots of videos. I'm learning how to put the light in front of me and all that kind of stuff. And so there's lots of resources that are available. I've made a whole lot with my partner, Kim. We've done a lot of stuff. So I'll just make sure to put that in my own YouTube channel. So you can also find me on YouTube at Nicole Kennedy Green. Be patient with me as I'm building content there. But content building is a big part of what I'm doing right now. So as the school year gets started, you'll have the support that you need. Okay?
Yes, awesome. So if there aren't any more questions, because I don't see any more in the chat, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And if you have questions, later on, make sure you inbox Nicole or reach out to her on social media. She's definitely available to answer your questions and get you an answer. So thank you guys for joining us on Inspire to Action, where we interview women who are taking action in their business. Definitely, Nicole is one of those women who is taking action in her business. So I thank you again for taking out the time to talk with us. We're going to have more interviews coming soon. I know I've been laxed on it, but there's a lot of women that were on today that weren't, maybe some on that weren't, that have growth of business out of this pandemic. And I think it's important to share with others what other people are doing, and that if they're doing it, you can do it too. So just thank you again, Nicole, and thank you everyone for sharing. All right, have a good night.
Thanks everybody. It was fun.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.